Welcome to Developmental Psychology. I'm your professor, Ryan Keith. And today I've got a couple of really short videos for you guys. I just want to talk about some interesting ideas as we talk about making that transition from childhood to adulthood, specifically from adolescence to early adulthood. Traditionally, when we have discussions about early adulthood, they're really these discussions of, let me make myself a little bit smaller there, these discussions of love and happiness, right? We're talking about getting together, establishing our careers, creating our independence, and about how we're in the best times of our lives, right? So, why doesn't it feel like that? In large part, this is because many people in early adulthood are really existing in this state of what's called prolonged adolescence. This prolonged adolescence or emerging adulthood is what we're considering to be kind of a new life stage where even more than an adolescent, you're neither fish nor fowl. You're over the age of 18, so you can vote, you can smoke, you can serve in the military, and you might be expected to do things like pay bills, but you can't do stuff like rent a car, get cheap car insurance, or be taken seriously by adults around you, right? Like, try arguing with your parents that now that you're 18, you can make your own decisions and manage your own finances, and that's why they need to give you money to buy an Xbox, right? And even that point at the end there is like, people who are 18 don't know how to make responsible choices, right? So why is this? Why are we in this state of prolonged adolescence when your parents are likely pointing out or have already pointed out to you that they were so much mature at your age and didn't have the same kind of problems that you did? Well, when we look at it, one explanation might be biological, right? That prefrontal cortex isn't done being developed. And so we're just now we're giving people space to be the older adolescents that they are. Maybe 18 is too young to consider people adults. Maybe we shouldn't be adults until we're 25. And when we see a lot of the social stuff that we do, this kind of makes some sense. Like people under the age, I think, of 24 are considered dependents of their children for financial aid purposes, to the frustration of many students in my classes. But also, if you look at like college students at the University of Florida, many of them live in dormitories. And a dormitory is like an apartment that you have on your own, except you have built in roommates and you have an RA on your floor. An RA is a resident advisor, a designated adult who lives in the building with you, who you can go to if you have problems so that they can solve those problems for you. You have to do your laundry, but it's like in the basement of your building right there, and you pay for it using your student ID card. So you don't need real money. You can go to the convenience store on campus and buy food like a real grown up with the card that your parents put money on, like an allowance. You can go to the food court and buy Chick-fil-A every single day if you want to, just like a real grown up, using the money that your parents gave you. And if you stop showing up to classes, you've got somebody who reaches out to you right away to, well, I think a lot of your parents might say, or grandparents might say, to baby you into coming to school. In this way, we see that there's this really big safety net to support people that neuroscientists would argue don't have the capacity to make long-term responsible decisions yet. At the same time, however, there's an argument on the flip side that maybe we see people in this state of prolonged adolescence because we allow them to. That maybe if we expected people to live with the consequences of their actions, they would grow up faster. And there's neurological evidence for this also. Remember that relationship between brain activity and brain structure means that if you use your brain to do certain stuff, it'll get built in a certain way. And in this sense, maybe it's not about waiting for your prefrontal cortex to be built so you can make good decisions. Maybe it's about exercising that prefrontal cortex. And if you like exercise it by making good long-term decisions and seeing the consequences of them, maybe you'll have an easier time making those kinds of responsible decisions sooner. It's tough to know really what the best answer is here, right? Because you don't want to baby people and then have them be ineffective adults the rest of their lives, but you also don't want to make people like sink or swim and then they sink and they're ineffective adults the rest of their lives. The best solution seems to be to put people in situations to make responsible decisions for which there will be consequences, but make sure that those consequences aren't lifelong choices that they're going to have to deal with forever. Don't make it too easy for people to get hooked on drugs, end up having kids at the age of 18, or end up involved in majors that cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars and have no job prospects, right? It's all about like splitting that difference down the middle. Interestingly, there's even been one argument that not just prolonged adolescence, but even adolescence isn't a real life stage. That ultimately, as far as like biological stuff goes, adolescence only exists because people invented birth control. If you think about it, like chances are you guys, either yourselves or somebody who had kids relatively young, age 18, or maybe even younger. And you know that those people have to grow up a lot faster. If you imagine that we had a whole society full of people who didn't have access to birth control, now we might believe in abstinence education, but one of the things that we see in communities that make use of abstinence-only education is higher rates of teenage pregnancy and STI transmission, meaning that telling people not to have sex just doesn't really work. They go ahead and do it anyway. Without having contraceptives to help people keep from spreading STIs or having kids, we'd have a lot more people having kids at a much younger age, at 18, 16, or even younger, meaning that as soon as people were able to have sex, they might be doing it and having kids and growing up, effectively erasing adolescence altogether. In this way, that we see that we're not just studying how we as a species develop or how we as individuals develop, but also how our culture develops over time. And as frustrating as it might be to see that the concepts and philosophical structures have to change, like maybe our ideas do need to change to explain the people we're dealing with, rather than expecting the people we're dealing with to match the explanations we already had. So just a bit of a thinker as we're considering what we're doing now and how we're doing it. In the meantime, stay safe, take care of yourself and your family members. And if you have questions about anything, whether it's this class, your other classes, how to be successful, or even access to mental health resources in a really stressful time, feel free to reach out. You can talk to me during my office hours, my posted office hours, by going on your phone or computer to officehours.page.link/meet. Or you can call or text me pretty much anytime at 352-327-8259. I can't guarantee that I'll be able to answer right away or hit you back up really quickly, but as soon as I get a chance, I'll respond and we'll set up a time to really have a conversation. Hope everything is going great, and just let me know as soon as you need anything. This is Developmental Psychology. I'm your Professor Ryan Keith, and I cannot wait to talk to you more about adulting, how we do it well, and how we do it really poorly.